Hey, today we're doing a repair on a BF Falcon Ute 2005 model. Got the 4-litre 6-cylinder engine in it, and what it's doing, the transmission, once it warms up a little bit, it goes into limp mode. Once you let it sit for a short period of time, it'll cool down a bit, or the oil out of the torque converter will flush the filter as it runs back into the filter, or back through the filter into the pan, and it runs okay for a short period of time again. So it's definitely a solenoid problem, electrical problem. So we're just going to put the scanner on it now. Now we've put the scanner on it, and we're getting a few fault codes. There's a P0763, which is your Solenoid C or your S3, a P1131, P1213, P1506, so a few non-related, transmission-related codes as well. We've just cleaned around the pan rail there with a wire brush and blown it out. And now I'm going to remove the rear bolts, leaving the 3 front ones on tight. And that should just allow that to drop down a little bit, so you've got a controlled emptying of the oil. You can see it's just there it goes now. Just done it by itself. So when that slows down, I'm just going to loosen these, and that'll let it tilt down a bit more. The oil is pretty hot in it at the moment, so it can be dangerous. Good idea to let it cool down if possible. Most of that oil's come out now, and it's cooled down a fair bit, but it's still a bit warm. We'll just take that pan off. You can see how much muck's on the magnet there, and also that's where the filter's been trying to pick up that oil, so you can see that that's accumulate a lot of muck there. So it's very important to do regular servicing on them. 1, to replace the filter, 2, to clean the magnet that's in there, and then all this fine metal doesn't get attracted to your solenoids, which basically gives you those fault codes. Now to remove the filter, we've got this spring steel clip here, and you just lever the screwdriver, lean it on the filter, and just it'll pop out, and then that'll allow the filter to drop down. It is still hot, so I'm just going to hold it, grab it with some multi-grips here, and also so you don't get that sudden surge of oil coming out, splashing, making a mess everywhere. You just sort of suspend that filter there and let the oil drip onto it, and then you can just direct it into your oil tray. Okay, now to get the valve body out, we've got to take all these plastic clips off. What you do that, you get a little pointy scribe, and you'll find there's a little slot or a hole in there, and you can just lever them out, and they'll just pop off, usually without damaging it, but sometimes when the plastic becomes brittle they will be damaged. It doesn't matter if they do break, because the spade terminals should be tight enough to sort of hold on to those terminals anyway. When we're getting the valve body off, there is a bolt right under this selector linkage there. So to get access to that, you can either push your T-bar all the way down and move it out of the way. I like to just undo this bolt on the selector here, and then I can just pivot it around out of the way. These are T30s. They're all T30s. You take all the bolts off, actually just loosen it, let all the oil drain off, just less messy when you're taking it off, and then we'll remove that valve body, and then we can inspect these solenoids. there is one solenoid, the S7, which is the torque converter clutch solenoid on these, on the BTR boxes, and that's up on the pump. You've got to actually take the transmission out and the pump out to get access to it. But all these other solenoids, S1 to S4, your S5 is your pressure control solenoid, and you've got your S6. I've got this little pick that I use, and what you do is you just put it in that little hole and just lever it out, and there you go. They just come out quite easily. This one looks like it's already been worked on. Some of the clips have been broken. I've taken the linkage off, and now I'm just going to pivot that around, and now I can gain access to that bolt under there. Now I'm going to take all the solenoids out and test them just to make sure that the job's good, but if you were just targeting a repair, your scanner should tell you which solenoid's faulty. You can, these ones here, because the bolt that holds it sort of just a little bit above the pan rail, you don't have to take the valve body down to get to them. So these three here are usually pretty easy to get to. This one here and the front one, you actually have to lower the valve body at least to get your little Torx bit in there. And the same as the S5, the pressure control, you've got to lower it down to be able to slide it out. As mentioned earlier, all the bolts are T30 Torx bit, which is that one there. And it's also a good idea to just loosen that one where the little spring is for your selector, and that one will be a T40. You don't have to take it right off, but it is a good idea to just loosen it. Just to take that tension off that spring, like so. A lot easier to put back up later. Just loosen them all first. Always try and push that bit in as hard as you can so you don't destroy that little sharp edge on them. Very easy to do. And that one. Oh, that's a hard one. And I'm just going to take them right out and then just do them up a little bit. So I'm going to allow that valve body just to hang down and drain that fluid out before I take the valve body off. It is still a bit hot, so that's why I'm eager to just loosen it down. It'll cool down a lot quicker. I'll let that cool down and drain out a little bit. You can see it's just, I've got one bolt there and two bolts here just holding it. Okay, I've got the valve body out. Now, if you have a look, I actually have stamps on what they are. You got your S1 3/4 shift, your car clutch apply regulator solenoid, which is your S3, your S2, which is your 2/3 shift solenoid. Over here you've got your bar, which is band apply regulator solenoid, which is your S4, and you've got your S6. Over here you've got your pressure control solenoid or your dampener solenoid, and your S6 works together with that sort of works as a cushion for your S5. So S5, S6 work together. So if you're targeting the repair, you just go by your fault code and just replace the solenoid that the code indicated. But it's sort of like tyres on your vehicle, they all wear out pretty much evenly. So I'm going to take them out one by one and put them on our pressure tester and just see if they're leaking. They shouldn't leak. If you do find one that's leaking, it's a good idea to replace it. These ones, the plastic ones, are just on-off solenoids. They either open a port or close a port. Your S5 solenoid is a pressure controlled solenoid, so it actually meters the flow. Another thing to note is when you're taking these off and replacing them, I like to do them individually, just one by one, for the reason that you can see that the terminals come out at different angles on the different solenoids, and that's so when you put the loom on there, the wires and that don't rub on the pan or anywhere where it shouldn't. These bolts are also T30s, so you just take them off one by one, and also check the O-rings on them if you're going to reuse the old one. Make sure that the O-rings are nice and pliable and are sealing properly. So I'll go through now in order. I've loosened them all, and I'll start off with the S1. You can see it looks quite good. Sometimes, yeah, that one looks like it's locked up. You should hear the clicking in there as it shuttles through. There's a little plunger in there. So I will put a little bit of pressure there and just see if it's leaking. Yeah, I can actually feel that shuttling through a little bit, but it does feel gummed up. There's a little plunger in there, and it actually magnetises. So if you're going to flush them, it's a good idea to demagnetise the solenoid before you flush it with solvent or air or whatever you're doing. So you can hear that one is clicking now, so it has cleaned it up a little bit. It's not leaking, so I'm going to reuse this one, and I'm just going to go through and test all the other solenoids. The pressure control solenoid you need to test with amperage, not voltage. Okay, I've been through the whole lot, and we've replaced the S2 and the S3. So the 2/3 shift and the clutch apply regulator solenoid. These two were leaking, and the S3 was the one that was playing up, and we got the code for it. I've also replaced the dampener solenoid, or the S5, or the pressure control solenoid. So now it's just a matter of doing the opposite of what we did before. Make sure you hook that Z-link in there as well when you're putting it in, and that's about it. These springs here on the dampener clutch, sometimes they do break, so it's good to just get a screwdriver and just give that a little bit of a fiddle and just see that it's lined up properly and it hasn't broken. apart from that, that's it. Transmissions, they don't have external band adjustment. You'd have to take the valve body off to adjust it. While you've got the valve body out, you could readjust these, and they're adjusted up by using shims. So the rear band and the front band, the shim, you can see it right in there on that side, and on the rear one it's on this side. Also, what you could do is do an air pressure test just by blowing through these apply holes. You can test the bands that they're working properly, and you'll hear the chunk of the clutches applying. Just be careful when you're doing that. Oil, because there is oil in there and it's a hydraulic system, when you blow air in, it will squirt the oil back out. You can get covered in it. It's the little Z-link that I was talking about before. Just make sure you put that in. Sometimes you can take these out and just give it a tap with a hammer just to sort of spread it out, just so it goes in a little bit tighter in there, but these aren't too bad. Okay, the longer ones just go in these holes there. There's the other one over here. Sorry about that, battery went flat on my camera. But we put the pan back on, cleaned it up, put another magnet in there. Now we're just going to fill it. We're going to put, I think, 3.5 litres will fit in it before, or until it starts coming out of here. You start the vehicle and then go through the gears, make sure you purge all the air out of it. And on these, you check the oil level with the motor not running. So you've got to have it at about 50 degrees, or when you go for a test run, come back and let it sit for a little while, for half an hour, and then check it. It should be just weeping out of that little fill hole there. Anyway, I have got other videos that very similar repairs for one of those. Very similar to do the repairs and work on from EA right up to BF, FG, the 4-speed. And also the Ssangyongs had the 6-speed. They have a slightly different valve body which gives it the 6 speeds. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Thank you for watching.